My mic. Oh, there it is.
You're listening to WKDW Radio 97.5 and KDWRadio.com, broadcasting from the Remax Palm Realty Tower right here in Northport, Florida. Quick update on the tower. We are waiting on J Hooks to transfer that over and get that all completed. And super excited about our partnership with the great city of Northport and part of the Emergency Broadcasting Network. And we are very, very honored at WKDW Radio to be partnered with the city. Also, want to send out a shout out to Lions Title and Trust, a fantastic organization who is our sponsor. So if you have any title needs or any real estate legal needs, Lions Title and Trust is definitely someone you want to call today. Along with the Hardin Insurance Group. Hardin Insurance Group is going through some transitions on lots of fronts with all the insurance changes that are happening in the state of Florida. But call Justin or Katie and their team today, and at least get an analyzed point of view from their group. And really, everybody should be doing that once a year anyway, just to stay up and current on your current insurance policies, whether it's car or auto or homeowners. The other couple I want to shout out to Zio's Pizza. Zio's has been part of the radio station and a huge partner for us as a local based business. And we will be talking with each and every one of you very, very soon about how we can work together as partners and grow community broadband radio to be a powerhouse for your advertising needs and the citizens of Northport. I do have, by the way, a very special guest in the house, a good friend, and really a great leader of our city, Mr. Jerome Fletcher, our city manager. How you doing, sir? Oh, you're muted.
Oh, am I muted?
There you are. Yeah, I can. There you go.
I'm doing great, sir. Thanks for having me.
Well, can we kind of start this out because it is February, and I know we just had the city state of the health of the city address, didn't we?
We did.
Did we?
I vaguely remember. Yeah.
Yeah. Or how is the health of the city?
I think the health of the city is looking good. I think that we are making some good strides. We still have a lot of work to do. We still need to do better with some things. Project wise, I think things are about to just explode. We're in February, the middle of February right now, and we just got, the final questions for the referendum passed for May. So now you look at what we're about to do when we start with the budget sessions coming up in March. And then we're talking about, groundbreaking of Price Boulevard in April. The referendum will be in May. In June, we're talking about groundbreaking for SMH over on 75 and Sumter. So it's about to be a very exciting and busy time for everyone around here.
Fantastic. We've got, I think, a city that's absolutely on fire right now with the growth and expansions and things that are happening within the walls of our community. Super proud of the way we're looking as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like we're analyzing every possible need for the future of the success of the city?
I believe we're analyzing it. I don't know that we've got it all figured out yet. But what I do feel like is based on the fiscal and economic impact report we received recently, I feel like we're going in the right direction. And I feel like if we can just weather the storm between the time that we have now and the time that the ULDC revisions take place, that money, that's going to bring more money into our city. So if we can hang on until then, I think we'll be in a much different place. But there's going to be this window of time for the next couple of years that we've got to make sure we take care of ourselves financially the right way so that we can all reap those benefits in the years to come.
You and I have talked about this on air and off air, and we have done a really good job of, I think, keeping and maintaining our tax base. Um, People a lot of times make a statement that Northport's out of control. They keep raising our taxes, and while that is true in some sense,
Correct.
that would be more than just the city. That would be more county on the property value side of things, because we have not really gone crazy on um, really raising the millage rate at all.
Right. So the millage rate has been the same for at least the last 5 years. So that rate, but that same rate on a higher value home, you're going to pay more for it, and you want your home value to go up. That's part of what you want your house to sort of return on its investment. If your house value starts going down, then you got a whole different set of problems. But back to what you said, we have raised, whether it was electrical or utility consumption taxes, as we could to avoid raising that millage rate. So we will never shy away from trying not to raise that millage rate. And for a city that's growing as fast as ours, when we do our budget this year, we start talking about this in a couple of weeks. Do we really want to start to change our level of service that we offer the city? I don't think that going up in growth as a city and going down in levels of service is the right formula to keep us on the track that we are on. But it's going to take some creativity for us to watch our expense line. That's where we've got to see where we can find some wiggle room, because we're growing, so we need more people. And the commission, rightfully so, are not going to want to add more people and add more expense. So where's the balance there? The balance is being able to figure out, okay, what can we sacrifice in order to make sure that we're properly staffed? Because if you're not properly staffed, then it goes down from there. So you got to take care of it at the top. But there'll be a lot of good conversations and a lot of good justifications on what we need and how we ask for it.
Yeah, we talked about this, every time I think tax season comes around, and you've heard me say my opinion. I wish that we would have, over the last 5 years, taken nibbles
Don't
at a rate
don't go there.
versus. I know we shouldn't
Don't,
go there, but
don't. I tried that approach, sir.
I
And
know.
the problem with that is, because even someone just said in the meeting a few minutes ago, well, it's an off election year, so you can raise the rate. There's never a good time to raise the rates.
Ever.
It's just there's never a good time, and I don't believe we're going to raise them this year. But unless we come prepared with a systematic strategy that would allow the citizens to understand why their government needs more from them, I just don't think that it's going to be a successful effort of and when I say that, I mean, I know the commission can raise the rate without having to ask anybody, but they are very fiscally responsible and they care about their constituents, so they're not going to put a burden on them without thinking it all the way through. But at the same time, the city itself has to take care of itself as well as it can. And that's where the ULDC rewrite comes in, as far as the growth that we're experiencing, to help that. I don't want to make that famous phrase of growth paying for growth, but growth helps pay for growth. And it also comes with some fiscal management as well.
Can you talk about the density growth and why that's so important for us as taxpayers in our city?
So when you talk about the density growth, you're talking about putting more people into more spaces closer together.
Right.
That's what attracts people, businesses, and the amenities that we want in this city. When you're spread out in 104 square miles, and you're so sparse out here and there, it's not as attractive to those vendors and businesses that want to be here. So as we are getting more dense and we're putting more structures up close to each other, and taking older structures and renovating them and bringing them back online so that they can be a willing and productive part of our community, it makes a difference. It makes a huge difference. And I think that while we'll never be somewhere like Sarasota City, which we don't want to be like Sarasota City, we have our own unique individual footprint and fingerprint, and we want to keep that. So it's just a matter of how do we continue to grow responsibly, making sure that we take care of the environment and our wildlife at the same time.
We've got we've got growing areas in our city with the density side of things. I actually just took a phone call, text, and really explained a lot of that to a citizen who really thought that they had purchased behind a preserve.
Right.
And since 1997, that property was owned by contractors.
Right.
And I showed her the history um, of that. And while saying all those things, the research that one could have done back in 1997 to find that out was public record. And it's
Right.
been that way through about 8 transactions. All those things that people talk about, and they believe that the pieces of property that they live behind. We could even talk about the Sumter projects. Those were not preserves. Well, the trees were on them, but it was undeveloped land owned by private businesses, and those private businesses are now building on them. We also have to look at that as a city too, don't we? As leadership.
Well, there's two ways I look at it. First of all, property owners have property rights, and that's first and foremost. And we cannot stop them from what they are entitled to do on their property. Just because no one, like you said, have yet to execute on it doesn't mean it's never going to happen, but it always means that it could happen. But even when that happens, and even when people exercise their property rights, we still have so many miles of landscape, beautiful landscape here in the city. And what we should want to do is make sure that when someone says, "Hey, well, you're developing and you're tearing all these trees down over here," we should always be able to point them into other areas where they could have that same amenity, even if they don't see it on that same corner that they're used to driving by every single day. That it still exists in our city. It just may not be where it was before. And the city ourselves are not the ones who are driving everything that happens with every piece of land that is developed. We are a partner to make sure that they follow the rules and we enforce and respect their rights. But everything is not always in our control, so to speak. But we can control how we maintain other areas that are within our control.
What you know, I'm going to ask you this because I know the answer, but I'm going to ask it because people say it all the time. Why isn't Northport leadership, city staff, and leadership within the walls? Why aren't they more vocal, or are they more vocal and people aren't participating
Well,
in getting knowledgeable about all of the changes that go through a city? Because the city can't stay
right,
what it was 20 years ago.
right.
It's a fluid city. So
Well,
what do you say to the citizens that say you never tell us anything?
I would say, we have a new Northport University, which is a class that is offered, I believe, quarterly, that will allow a group of citizens to go through and learn more about the deeper inner workings of a city overall. You need to really have a well-rounded picture of what the city is, does, and where we're going, instead of just seeing it from one particular perspective. It would be a value for people to learn. We don't have time to teach every time something comes up on an agenda or everything that comes in front of a commission. And most of the commissioners ask their questions in private. And sometimes they come out and say, "Hey, you answered this in private. Can you speak more about it publicly?" And we're fine with that. But our goal is not to educate them on a process every single time we execute a process. But we do have a lot of passionate, vocal people in the city who want to do good and have a productive outcome for the city. And we invite those people always to come out and be closer to us and be more engaged so that we can decrease their learning curve and we can increase our listening to them.
So a really poignant question here. What what do you say to the citizens that say our city is not telling us the truth when we talk to them? What's your answer to that? Because I
Um,
actually had this happen, and I'll tell you, I'll give you the flip side of it is that I said, well, who do they want to hear the information from?
no, that was my answer. Stop it. I was going to say, it depends on who you're asking. Like, what are you asking these people, or what are you saying? The city should be able to defend whatever they're saying if they're saying it and it's accurate. And if they're saying it's inaccurate and they make a mistake, they should come back and apologize for it. But there should be no one intentionally misleading anybody in the community on any effort. It's just not good governance.
You know, I don't. I'm not going to talk national politics, but Elon Musk said something the other day. And I feel like our city is in the same kind of situation. Um, he said, if I did anything wrong, it would be amplified. It would truly be amplified if I was intermingling my business with what I'm doing. I
Mhm.
think the city is like in the same boat with a lot of citizens that are really involved with coming to meetings and doing all those things. They're not screaming at the top of their voices, look at our city, it's falling apart. They're battling over situations, but
Right.
they're not saying there's misconduct.
Well, well, first of all, this city has a little bit of history of misconduct. So, I've been here for 3 years now. When I got here, I gave some grace for that because look at what they just came out of before I got here. But now that we've been here and we've sort of, gotten our feet under us and we've gone through a lot of processes and people and, challenges, what I would say is we are as transparent as anyone could ever be as we're dealing with people and they're watching us make decisions in real time whether they agree with how we're doing it or not. That might be where the rubber
Okay.
meets the road. And normally what you would think is, I disagree with the how that you're doing it, but you're the professional or the person that we hired or the subject matter expert, whoever you want to call it. So they should get the deference to, okay, they know what they're talking about, what they're doing. And if they do it wrong, then we'll hold that person accountable, as opposed to not going along with the outcome of the project because you disagree with how we get it done. And that's what I hear most of the time from the people who don't like what we're doing. They don't like how we're doing it and they think that we should be doing it their way. And they're passionate about us doing it their way. But that's not the way this government works. We talk to you about what we're going to do, how we're going to do it. We tell you what we're going to do. We ask you for your input in that particular project or equation, and we process it. And we want to bring the people along in the community for partnerships. And I think that's working well for most of the city.
And I sit on the board, uh, at advisory board at Achieva. I sit on now I'm at the executive director at the radio station. I sit on the board with Northport Forward, and so I've got a business side of things. I've got, of course, my real estate business, which is what I do for a living every day.
Right.
Um, and I, I I have a lot of contacts with people, and there's three different styles of approach to all three of those groups that I'm
Absolutely.
in. One, the business side of things, the Northport Forward is non-political and really addressing the citizens' interests and needs from both
Right.
sides of the fence. And then, we have the radio station that is really pushing content out on both sides of the aisle. We have all kinds of different shows. Um, when we talk about these things, how important is it for the citizens to really start connecting with some of the local business organizations, some of the committee groups that are out here like Northport Forward, and know that they don't have to be the sole information seeker. There's people who are digging up information to give to citizens, and it's both ways. It kind of works both ways. Can you talk about the importance of that involvement? I know you talked about the university. I think those all go together.
Right. So I'll use an example. If you want to be a community advocate, then be a community advocate. That doesn't mean only speaking at public comment. That doesn't mean only sending voicemails or emails. I mean, we want to see you out at some of the more productive events that you can help shine a light and support the 1,000 employees that we have here in the city as they do their tireless job for the residents every single day. We that's another way for you to get involved. And then that way what you do is you spread your goodwill around the city, then other people see that, and then it makes your position or your argument that much more credible because you see people that were out there engaged. And again, everyone can't be out at everything, but there's a ton of things that we have going on, whether it's morning, day, or night, weekend, or week not. So, there's plenty of times that you can get involved, but we want to see more people who can just, pop in and say something nice at some of the community events. Show the staff and the team, our public safety, and all of our officials how much you appreciate them, because the city has a lot of love for our employees, and we're grateful. And we just would always love to thank them in person.
I learned something that and we do talk every once in a while, but we don't talk about what's going to be on the show in depth. Uh,
Right. I don't
but
know
I did, yeah.
why.
Well, I you're doing some team building, which I've been through that with a lot of organizations, and um, I take a lot of pride in participating in them. The fire station workshop was
Yes.
fantastic,
Yes.
and things like that are all about. I still think it's team building, but it's also building for the city
Yes.
to have a plan to look at for the future. Can you talk about some of these things that we do as a city to work on our culture within?
Sure. So in the fire department strategic planning that you were a process of was a great example of Chief Titus and how he cares about his employees and wants to make sure that they're challenged. And he has a very inclusive environment, and you were included as a community stakeholder, because we need to hear all perspectives of an issue, all sides of it. We can't pretend like we know everything, and we don't want to do that. But people like you being included in that process is very helpful. So you have the strategic side of things where you're trying to figure out, hey, how are we going to execute on this outcome that is important to us, the best way to get there, the most efficient way to get there, and how can you communicate as a team to get there better and faster. And that team building is important because it makes your government work at the fastest that it can. And to be clear, let's be very clear, government does not move fast on any level. But then you also have the other side of the coin where it helps with the behavioral aspect of the thing you're dealing with. Most of the time, you hear people say it's never the work, it's always the people. If we as a people can get training and outside help to make us understand the actions and the whys of why people do things and who they are, then that helps us become better and faster as well. I think both are important, and I think you should always do both. We've been doing some of it since I've gotten here. This year, one of the focuses of mine was to look inward and see how we could be a better team. And we have really started peeling back the layers of the onion, and we're not going to stop. And just because we find things, we pull them back, it doesn't mean that there are always situations that will have us separate from employees, but we do want to improve and make sure that whether it's the culture or the environment, we are responsible for putting all of our employees in a position to be successful. And if we're not doing that, then we're not doing our jobs properly. So we are pulling back the layers of just about all of our onions, and we're going to just fix some things and just to be better.
For years, decades, we've had the Anthony Robbins, the John Maxwells of the world, who are part of the uh, mindset changing culture. It may be the same information,
Right.
but sometimes hearing it through a different lens, a different scope, changes behavior. You talked about behavior there, and I think the citizens of a city actually have to go through that too. Unfortunately, we don't have an educational base mindset change for 97,000 other than what you guys do trying to get information out, whether it be Jason Bartolone doing the social media stuff and his team being really fantastic at trying to get information and content out in short spurts to really change a mindset on topic.
Right.
You've got the social media team there. You've got different organizations, the chamber doing their thing and their involvement. You've got the radio station doing their thing and their involvement. You have all these subgroups that are out there kind of working on them.
Right.
But you talked about leadership change and attitude change and adjustments that you guys have to make. Don't citizens kind of have to peel back their own onion sometimes?
They do, and I'll give you an example. So we had a meeting on January the 28th. It was a evening meeting, and there were some of our more passionate constituents in the audience, and they were so frustrated. And when it happened, after the meeting broke and I went down and talked to them, I said, I can't have you be this frustrated for this long. Like, I mean, we just had an election, so it's going to be, a few years before our board turns over. And I can't have them that frustrated. So we met as a small group, myself and three of our local community activists, all in three different seats, by the way, with different backgrounds, which was a very, good opportunity for us to analyze each person's different seat. But at the end of the day, what I need to do is to better communicate the details of what they're looking for so that they can then be on the position of making their decision. And they have to be receptive and they have to listen to it. And then they have to have to tweak how they speak to the commissioners and public and how to get the best result out of our leadership team. Being at public comment for 3 minutes is normally not going to get you the outcome that you want. So we need to supplement that with efforts on their side, effort on my side, so that we can sort of get it done. And once we do that, and once we sort of make sure that we're working on the same sheet of music, if you make a decision or you don't like something that we've done, God bless you. Have a nice day.
So
make your own decision.
I like that answer because we're talking about the active people in
Yes.
this. How do we start to change the mindset of people who are disinterested until it affects them?
Well, so there is I will see it when I believe it mentality here in the city of Northport, and it's a little bit stronger than some other places, but I don't think people are people are not going to believe we actually borrowed money for Price Boulevard until they actually see Price Boulevard finished and widening. But we're going to put that shovel in the ground. The ACA hospital has a ribbon cutting coming up here very shortly. I want to say it's in a short period of time. I forgot the date, but they'll be cutting that ribbon on that facility out there. SMH will be putting their shovels in the ground and doing things out there. So until people see these things being done and actually wrap their heads around the concept of what's coming, it's going to be pretty hard because they're going to think that you're just talking again. We've probably made so many promises that haven't come to fruition that we've lost the credibility. But from my stance, since I've been here, some of the things that we wanted to do have been delayed, but I'm not deferring anything. We are here to get things done, and we have to just make sure that we take the right steps and the right actions of time to get there.
Carmine Miranda at one of the Northport Ford events opened that event with a laundry list of accomplishments, which I said, what a resume. Because truthfully, any of the commissioners that served,
right,
the staff that's here, you yourself, anybody who was involved with any of those projects, that's a hell of a resume to put down. And I mean, it was in depth. And do you actually feel like this is extraordinary, some of the things that we're doing right now, because we're focused really well, I think, and that's how I feel.
Actually, it doesn't, because I keep telling people I just want Northport to be normal. I want us to stop being behind the eight ball, stop feeling like the world's out to get us, stop feeling like we can't depend on our allies, because we can, and we do have the world in front of us. We're doing a lot of great things, but the quicker that we can accept that we need to do what other normal municipalities do, the better we'll be. The voting referendum, we're having to ask to borrow for disaster recovery. That's a normal thing that other people do. We need infrastructure that is failing in what we put out there. That is a normal thing to do. So they're just ways that I just want us to be normal. And I tell people, I'm not even trying to go for extraordinary yet. Let's just catch up to normal, and then we can go from there. But there's so much in front of us that if people knew everything about it, their heads would explode, and then they would not actually sort of be able to comprehend what's coming down the road. But if people will just be patient and communicate and walk with us on the journey, then I promise you we will get there together.
And you talk about people's heads exploding. I'll say this. I think when you're accomplishing things at the pace that we're accomplishing them, it does cause people's heads to explode because we've been so slow in the past of
Right.
even thinking about doing things. I mean, when I moved here 25 years ago, we had one Publix. We had a Winn-Dixie that's now going to be a Planet Fitness, and it's
Right.
been flooded and it's been deteriorated and needed work then. And we're watching all these things develop and change. We've got,
Right.
Price Boulevard. When Sumter was widened, I was here for that. It was 2 lanes. And I remember everybody complaining about the tree line and oh my gosh, what's going to happen? Well, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful entry, and it's a meandering way into the city, and it doesn't feel like all the other cities, believe it or not. It's 4 lanes of traffic, but we do have good flow, and we're 97,000 people here now, and while some people would say the roads are crazy busy, and
Right.
I would tend to believe that with 97,000 people here, I still don't feel like we're not a small town.
Yeah, I totally agree. But some people, a lot of us, we don't know. You don't know what you don't know. So until they see it and they actually know that you know what you're talking about and you can do it, then that is going to garner some level of hesitation. But if you are self-aware to know that, hey, look, I don't share that same vision, but you're put in a position because you do know what that vision looks like. I'll use our commissioners as an example. They're put in a position to have the vision for the city. Then let's let them have that vision for the city, and let's execute on that vision. If we disagree with that vision, we speak and we say why we disagree with it, and the commission makes the decision, and we move on and we execute on that decision. But it doesn't mean that you don't speak up. It doesn't mean that you're not engaged. It just means that you have to follow the leader in this example.
You talk about the university, Northport University, and I want to go back to that for a second because uh, as the city manager, why is that so valuable for you to have that piece of education to the citizens?
Because I think that as we educate our citizenry, we are going to build the confidence in people who want to get closer to us, whether it's on an advisory board, on a committee, as a commissioner. You know, we want good people who understand what we're doing and why we do things to be advocates for us. And I think that Northpoint University is going to create a pipeline of people who will be able to speak very intelligently on what the city does and why, and then be able to help problem solve when it goes wrong.
And that's an interesting approach because with that, if people were to have gone through that before they became commission based, isn't there some education value that comes out of that for the transition?
I definitely believe so. You might have to ask one of our two newer commissioners that same question, but I'm sure that they would agree, because I don't think the job is what either one of them expected it to be. And I think that's for the good, just because of the volume of responsibility they have and the scope of work that they have to deal with. It's a lot. And so, when you hear people when they're in campaign season, well, it's not a job, and it's not a job. I'm like, oh, trust me, it's a job. And when they get in here and they see the level of commitment that they have to make and the time drain on away from other things that they want to get done, they better understand it. But again, you you have to be exposed to it to fully be able to grasp what you are getting into. But when you do, and when you do it the right way, oh, you can feel like you're 1,000 miles in the air because you just feel so great about contributing back to your community and doing the right thing, and people are happy. It can be very fulfilling, but you're going to work for it for sure.
You know, I, the the idea that this is a part-time job for the
Mhm.
commissioners, I've been beyond that scope of thought for
Right.
probably 15 years now.
Yeah.
back in the day,
It
and
probably was. Yeah. Back in the day, it probably was a part-time job.
it was, and I wish that Vanessa, I know Vanessa and Jim Blucher and all the crew back in the day
Right.
would probably yell at me if I said it was part time back then, because
Right.
we were shakers and movers at our level back then.
Right.
Frustrated as it may be, we were still trying to accomplish things and switch things over. And today we're not 25,000 anymore. We're
No.
97,000 strong, going to 100,000. Ever I heard this the other day that we thought we were going to hit 100,000 in 18 months. No chance.
Oh no.
6 months maybe.
Right. I'm about to say that it'll be this year for sure.
Oh yeah, yeah,
The
and
way
and,
the way
and
people are packing in here.
yeah.
But again,
Go ahead.
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
I think when you go through all those processes with people and you start to and I did have that conversation with both new commissioners, and I was overjoyed to
Right.
talk with both of them about their perception that they had prior to and
Yes.
and now today. And I have such great respect for anybody who serves our community, first off, but I have a greater respect when you can transition from, I don't think it's that bad, I'll be able to do it part time, to, oh my gosh, there's a lot here.
Right.
And then realize that you have to adjust your life to fit what you got voted to serve.
That is correct. But listen, at least they're both still here.
There,
Knock on
there.
wood. They're both still here. Once they saw how deep the rabbit hole went, they didn't jump out of it. They said, "Hey, look, I'm in it now. I want to be the best person in it," and I give them a lot of credit for standing up and continuing to ask questions and get acclimated to what we're doing. And that their attitudes have been just amazing. They're both out in the community at public functions. You see them all around the city representing the commission. So it's a very good board. I think they got a lot of good synergy and a lot of good energy, and they know how to disagree respectfully and professionally, and that's all you want. As people stick to their opinions and their beliefs, you have to respect that, and you try to make your point, and then you take a vote, and after that we all do what the will of the board is.
So, have we added any new staff recent?
We're always adding staff. Can you be more specific?
Any leadership?
Oh, any leadership staff?
Yeah.
I
Do we have a new person in economic development?
I feel like this is a loaded question. Yes, we do. Mike just came in to be our economic development director. He's been here, I think, 1 or 2 weeks, and that was a void that we needed filled because the constant day-to-day leadership was absent in that role for what we need to be internal and external. That role has to, of course, be able to manage the team internally, from a leadership standpoint, but they also have to be what I want them to be, in my words, proactively aggressive in getting people to understand, recognize, and value the city of Northport. So they've been going to more conferences. They've been talking to more site selectors. We've been more knocking on the door, knocking on Benderson's door, getting them to come to the table and working with them. I mean, just knocking on doors, as opposed to waiting for things to fall into your lap. So we're glad that he's on board and happy to have him.
And I add that in. I did recently read that, because I am actively pursuing information to ask questions on this show and
Yeah,
try to create that. Um,
yeah,
it's fun to ask you a question and you think it's loaded, um,
right,
because now everybody knows that the truth is
right.
even when the city staff gives me an agenda for the show, I try to chew that up and spit it out as fast as I can so I can get to this conversation. And we didn't have, for this pre-recorded show, we didn't have an agenda. This is all off the cuff kind of stuff that you do with citizens on this show for an extra hour when we're live most times.
Yeah.
Can you talk about the involvement that, from a city manager point of view, I brag about this, because we don't have city managers all over the nation doing a 2 hour town hall meeting live on the air um, once a month
I,
um, around the country, and you're doing it. And I think that's huge. On top of the fact that it says volumes about the willingness to communicate.
so we had a Florida City County Managers Association meeting up in Clearwater a couple weeks ago, and we talked about the community outreach. And as I said before, I think community engagement is a dying art form, and I understand why, but I don't like it, and nor do I agree with it. People are very reluctant now to go out and put themselves out in public any more than they have to because of the lack of civility when it happens. We have lost the ability to be kind when we're mad. We've lost the ability to not make it personal when it's not. And so you take public people and they're like, well, why would I want to expose myself to that any more than I have to? And the answer is because that's the job you took. You took the job to put yourself out there. So you need to be out there. People need to see you, and so that they can hear from you. If everything that they heard from me was in writing and they never actually heard or got a chance to talk and ask a question and have a conversation, they would not be in touch with their government. And we are the local government. We are, in my opinion, the most important piece of government because we're the ones who affect you most directly. And I know we have great people at the state level and at the federal level, not taking away from those people. I'm just saying, don't overlook your local government. And so when we're out there, we are fully aware that there will be people who disagree with us. That is not a newsflash. It is how we talk to them. How do we treat them? How do we respond to them? How do we empathize with them? How do we make sure that they know that they are heard in this community? And we do that. My team does that. The commission does that. And then we take it all and you put it all together, and then you sort of have to make a decision, and then you make the decision and you have to explain it and live by it. But running away from community outreach and public interaction is not the way, in my opinion, to run a government.
And you talk about that, the civility of everything, uh, and I know that there are going to be citizens out there that say it goes two ways. Well, it does actually, and I think one of the things that I'm super excited about is the fact that you already admitted peeling back the onion.
Yes.
So you can't get better unless you kind of go through peeling back the onions. And it's not, today is not the forever fix. You're going to have to peel back an onion in a year.
Correct.
And I wish that people would understand that there are pieces that we teach and learn as leadership through leadership courses and different things that we do. I wish people would get involved with the leadership of the city and take that course, because it's a great way to peel back your own onion and learn and understand that there is a great way to get yourself educated on a city government that is not your typical city government situation.
Yes. So, and that's so true. And no one wants to fix the city's internal issues more than I do. I'm not oblivious to think that, oh my gosh, we can't have room for improvement or things we shouldn't do better. I'm the one thinking I will always want to do better. And I ran into someone in the community recently, and he was talking to me about the Acela transition, and how we got the new system going on, and we're still working through the kinks of it. And he was giving me all this feedback, and he was like, no, I don't want to, burden you or whatever. I said, this is not a burden. I'm like, this is what we are supposed to do. We're supposed to listen and then figure out why something's happening and then change it. And you change it, and you do that for everybody. It doesn't matter who the system should be designed so that everyone has the same or similar experience. And that's what I'm going for. I want to make sure that everyone has a good similar experience. And that means that we need to evaluate ourselves. We need to take criticism as constructive as it is meant to be delivered, and not get sensitive about it. And we need to make sure that we continue to push towards the outcome for the most people. And as long as we keep those things in perspective, the job itself will sort of not be as difficult as it can be. But when you approach it with the right attitude and perspective, then you are a lot happier as a person. And I do believe happiness is a choice. And there's just some people who choose to be unhappy. And if I can't do anything about that, then I just accept that and I move on. But most of the world, most of our city are happy citizens. One, like you said earlier, because they're not around here complaining about, things at every single meeting. That's a sign. But, we're glad that we're providing a good quality of life.
We all go through changes throughout our life, whether it be workplace or family, church,
Sure.
school. I'm not a fan of the word change at all. It's inevitable because in order to progressively be successful, one must change or adjust. And I like the word adjustment because it's softer.
Right.
So my question to you is, do we have a staff right now that you feel that is making those adjustments to make everything better for the citizens?
I like the word evolve.
All
And
right.
I think that, um, I think we do have a staff that is willing to make the evolution or the adjustments to get to be where I want us to be. And, you know, I have been criticized a time or two in my life for never being satisfied, believe it or not. So
Can't
I'm
imagine
all right, right. So I'm all, and impatient, by the way. Yeah, he used to call me impatient all the time. But there's a bar and a level of excellence and standard that I will not go beneath, and I want everyone to have that same pride in what we do and everything that we do. And that's from the top to the bottom. If you start at the top and you cascade that down throughout the organization, we're going to be a phenomenal organization. Doesn't mean we're not going to have a few people we got to whittle out here or there. But for the most part, I want people to be able to say that, yes, everyone on the staff understands what he wants, where we're going, how to please our community, and how to be better each and every day.
fantastic. When you first came here, if you were to look back right now and know where we started, are you happy where we're at right now?
Am I ever really happy, John? I tell people I have moments of joy. So happy is not the word I would use. I'm excited about what we have done for the first 3 years. But I think the next 3 years are going to be a lot harder because, we're going to have some really tough financial choices, but we're going to be doing some great things that people are going to physically be able to drive down their road and see. They're going to see the widening of Price Boulevard. They're going to see the hospitals start to go up, and that's going to be exciting. But I don't want us to lose track of the mindset that more revenue needs to come in the city, so our citizens have to pay less out to us. And as my focal point, we need to activate the activity center 6 and 10 out east so that we can get the right utilities out there so that we can get those areas sort of online sooner rather than later. And it is just going to be amazing when this city starts to see some of its benefits start to come to light. And that, as I said earlier, that's irregardless of if you agree with how we get there. You can have your opinion about how we get there, and we can have our opinion, and we share our opinions with the commissioners, and they either agree or disagree, and we move on from there. But if you take your opinion out about how we get there and you just focus on the outcome that we should all share in, then I think that everyone should realize that a happy place is soon to come if they're not there yet.
If we were to go where you envision us to go over the next 3 years, are the taxpayers going to feel comfortable, or if we're moving things forward with the with everything that you've set forth to get?
Comfortable might not be the word I would use because The police headquarters is going to cost some money, period. There's no way to avoid that other than to make sure that we spread the cost out over time and let everyone who is going to benefit from it help pay for it. But, we're asking the citizens for the financial method to get to what we want to get for the outcome. And some citizens think, well, you're asking me to vote whether or not you're going to get a new headquarters. That's not what we're asking. We are going to get a new headquarters, but we are legally responsible for asking for you to bond it because that's the fastest and cheapest way to do it. And everyone around us does it, in a fairly normal and productive way. If we can't use that way, then we're gonna have to use a different way to get it. And some of those may look like a P3, where they come in and they build it and they lease with the buyback, or we may have to go through certificates of participation to get it done. But the question on the ballot is not the only way for us to get what we want. It is the most responsible way to get what we want. And that's the respect that the citizens deserve. We did not ask this question in a prior ballot. This is the first time the police headquarters has been on the, because some people have said, well, why don't you just go ahead and skip that step and go to a P3 or go through the other financing tool? And I'm like, that's not the way you approach your city. You ask them, and if they say no, your action should be based on how they have responded to you. They responded to us in November and said, we will not vote for disaster recovery along with failing infrastructure projects. So guess what? We came back and we split it up and said, now here you go. You ask them, this is what public input and participation looks like. And then you base your next actions on what they said, not what you want to hear.
How important is it for the city and its citizens to realize what they're voting for on the referendums?
Well, it's very important. It's where the timing of it is hard because you look at a special election in May and someone's going to say, well, why didn't you wait until 26? And we do know that the sheriff is going to be building a new facility, or excuse me, asking to be building a new facility. So you better believe people are going to support our sheriff because he needs his support as well to make sure that the county stays in the right direction. So we all respect that, and we all love Sheriff Hoffman, and we're grateful for his effort and his teams. So Northport has a small window to get this done. So the theory in May was to make sure that we hit as many people as possible without waiting to have another fall election, that being even further down the road, making the project continue to cost more and more. There is an opportunity cost here that we are dealing with. And the people understand, I think the people understand that the longer it takes to build something, the more expensive it's going to be. So we really need to just get out here and go do this and make sure we do the right thing for the right reasons. It benefits us all. We're one community. I think just about everyone appreciates Chief Garrison and Deputy Chief and what they do and how they do it. So it's not a matter of disliking them. I don't think it's a matter of not believing that crime needs to be acted upon now and before it actually gets here. I just don't think people like the price. And I understand that. But just because you don't like the price, let's make sure that doesn't get in the way of the outcome that we want to achieve. And the outcome is we want to keep our residents safe. We want to keep our response times at a level that we can protect and save lives. And we want to have a community that everyone still wants to come to 5, 10, 20 years from now. If this city starts to go into a downslide without the right level of law enforcement, it's not going to be pretty. And I don't even want anyone to start thinking about that too hard. Let's just do the right thing and move on.
So we're at 53 minutes and 37 seconds at this point, and we've got 55 minutes total that we can talk. And I'm just going to give you the last minute and ask you: is there any special thanks you want to throw out to anybody out there?
Well, I always want to thank the commission first and foremost. They are a great board. I think we are going to have some very interesting conversations. I appreciate their leadership, and thanking our team and our staff who are, just very dedicated and loyal to the city of Northport. The sacrifices that they make through their own families at their own time, I could never be grateful enough for. Our advocates who give opinions, whether they share mine or not, I appreciate their involvement. It could be the other way, and we don't have those people coming out in person and sharing and taking their time to try to problem solve with myself and my team. That's important. And, I would like to hopefully thank everyone who's going to come out and vote in May. Please just make sure you stay plugged into the information of the public meetings with the commission so that you can come ask questions. You can write in your questions. They'll answer your questions. And then that way everyone can be on the same page.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being part of the show. This is John Rawlings with Real Talk Radio. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Please share this content. It's very important that all the citizens of Northport hear exactly what our city manager had to say today. Thanks, Jerome, for being part of the show.
My pleasure.
All right. Talk to you soon.